Today, we're joined by Dr. Glenn Toby, entrepreneur, philanthropist, wealth advisor, and music industry veteran. From his early days in hip hop to guiding athletes and leaders on financial literacy, Glenn's journey is all about impact and empowerment. Let's dive into the conversation. This program is part of the Scene Projects Podcast Network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Well, welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is Dr. Glenn Toby. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Bubba.
A lot of plaques on the wall, a lot of big things in your past, and a lot of cool stuff that you're doing right now in the present. So before we kind of get into all the stuff that you're up to now, give us a brief history of where you came from and a few of the accolades that you've achieved, and then we'll get into all the fun stuff that you're doing these days.
Love to do it. Brooklyn born, Queens sworn, experienced youth homelessness when I was really young, from like 8 to the 7th grade. From there, moved to Queens, and Hollis, Queens Village, we're the home of Run DMC, O Cool J and Russell Simmons. And before those records came out, I was one of the first rappers, Mr. Sweetie G. I have an EP out now called At the Place to Be, which is many years later. And actually one of my first records was At the Place to Be. So I made the EP the same thing. Did some videos on that to just redo it again. And I had the honor of being put in the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. Initially, before the first records came out in hip hop, the big ones, I was touring just before Run DMC and LL Cool J made records. And I would go to all 5 boroughs and battle with other MCs and crews. That's anybody from Dougie Fresh to Biz Markie, Grandmaster Flash, Curtis Blow. And then during the emergence of hip hop, as it became commercialized and the record companies started signing it, I left and went into business. From there, I had the honor of managing LL Cool J with Brian Latour and Charles Fisher. Did that for 4 years. That was during the period of the development of the show In the House, and of course, obviously the FUBU deal and much more. Discovered Positive K, which was a joy, and I produced his first record and managed him. I discovered David Banner, the rapper that you may know, the rapper actor. Worked with Saigon, managed him. Went on to produce hit records in house music. I was one of the first pioneers in New York City garage house music sound as a producer and artist with a group called Cultural Vibe and New Civilization. And during the music period, at the height of that, I met a gentleman by the name of Alonzo Shavers and got into the sports business. We did over $300 million in contract business in our career, sold that company now with a new company, which is Rakim, Vic, Brady Jackson, and Jay Gordon. And it's called the Winner's Circle. We're doing NIL, and we're also doing sports negotiation and management as a whole. So here we are.
A life lived in the zone, in the heart of hip hop, and for a young kid that experienced that homelessness in New York City I'm assuming in the 70s and 80s, not a great place, right? This is before it really got cleaned up. Some rough times, man. So my heart goes out to that young man. Not an easy situation to grow up in. I experienced a little bit of homelessness in my life as well. I was a lot older than that. I was in my teen years, but I understand that. And I wasn't on the streets of New York City, right? I was in the Midwest, where there was always, a warm, inviting person that would reach out to that. I'm sure that it wasn't always the case for you. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sure that informed a lot of who you became as an older gentleman, and as you were, meeting some of these other young men and trying to guide them. And I know that currently that means a whole lot to you as well.
It does. The work, Bubby, you're right. We have a foundation called the BookBank Foundation. It's been around for 30 years. We serve the lost, the lonely, and the forgotten. These aren't handouts, these are hand ups. So we have a program called Groceries to Grow, which we have been helping and people with sustainable food, right? There's a food desert. Sometimes people can't budget right, giving them the modalities and strategies to be able to live a better life, diet, how to plan and program mealing and how to make the dollar and budget, when you're going out to shop. We have something called Shelter from the Streets, which we'll be doing this year in December. We go around to all 5 boroughs. We go to homeless shelters and organizations and provide much needed goods. We have a flight school, the aviation camp, which we do every summer with Captain John Addison, who's an airplane pilot, and so many other programs. So it's 30 years of talking to the lost, the lonely, and the forgotten. And we believe that ignorance and a lack of education and a lack of critical thinking is the first step into incarceration, mental illness, drug abuse, and economic disparity. The only way to fix it is to fix it.
Yes, sir. And as someone who was incarcerated for 2 years of my life, selling pot and just making really bad choices, I understand that. And I was very fortunate. We're actually a vote today in South Dakota about building a massive new prison, $650 million. It will be the biggest spending ever in South Dakota's history of public taxpayer funds. But there's so much about our current system that's broken. Because of the education factor, because there's zero rehabilitation done. It's adult daycare, doctor. And I don't know if you've been into some of these facilities, but it's all pacification. And then you get 3 months before you hit the door. They're like, okay, well, like learn a little bit here, maybe learn a trade and throw you out there. And there's not enough helping people before they get to the point of incarceration and they are embedded into a lifestyle. It's very hard to pull them out of that lifestyle after they've been into it. And there's so much more that can be done. And I hope that through foundations like yours, that, these young men and these young people everywhere, rural America, I think is not much different in many ways from some of these inner city areas because of the lack of education, the lack of, good jobs and the lack of hope for a brighter future. And I think that's really where it all stems from.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think if you look at the system, many children, don't have a chance, don't have a choice. Like we generally don't pick a lot of the choices, they pick us. So these children are forced with an option. Do they stay hungry? Do they eat? Do they shoplift? They're competitive, self-esteem issues, confidence. Many of these things can't be built because in the home, it's so chaotic or there's such a dire need that the parents aren't able to parent. They're just being loving mothers or fathers or one or the other. But I think when you have the entire village, I believe we raise our children, but society and the community rises our children. A rise is the liftoff from the best place that you get to start out. Some kids don't have a fair start. Some never have a chance. But through education, through the court systems, through laws, through communal exchange with fairness, equitable exchange, even with a prisoner that's inside a system. So this prisoner, if he's doing 5 years, we'll say, we'll cut it to 2.5, but this is a give and take. You can't have any violations, no contraband, no fighting, no drugs, listening, being on time, and then give the prisoners an opportunity to write out programs, scalable, measurable, things that will give them attributable return of what they've done, an idea, a concept. That same mind that turns to the left, that is strategic, it can go to the right. If they're really good in the dark, they can be just as good in the light. And guess what? If it's a complete team, it's the reverse. It kind of reverses incarceration and creates an incineration for all the evil, the wickedness, by giving people a chance, by having grace for them, and creating fail-safe and default measures. Fail-safe means this person's isolated in a program specifically. So if they're working with sharp items and their tools and there's equipment and they, maybe they're in the room by themselves doing it, right? They have to be psychologically qualified to know that they're not going to hurt themselves with it. There's so much programming and there's so many provisional concepts and thoughts and ideology that can be put into these prisoners. They got a lot of time. When they're not working the 4 to 8 hours, the other 8 hours, they're either living in shame, pain, mental illness, discourse, or absolute adjunct evil and discourse. But imagine if we were constantly feeding them more than they can eat. There'd be an abundance of opportunity when they're ready to walk to it.
Incredible stuff. I think a lot of people could learn from listening to you, and I hope a lot of people do. There's just so many people out there that don't understand it. They don't understand, and I am I proud of the choices that I made that landed me in the prison system? No, of course not. But I'm very grateful that I had that experience, because I can speak not just to these young men and women, also an increasing female prison population as well. I can speak to them, but I can also speak for them, and to expose people on the other side of that fence to what the plights actually are. Because if I didn't tell you, you would never have assumed that I was an incarcerated individual, right? And I think that a lot of people look at me, they don't look at me differently because of that, right? But because you see the man that I am today. And it's important for me to share that part of my story, where some people think that I should never share that part. Oh, why would you tell people that? Because it's part of who I am. And it's not because it's something that, necessarily that I'm proud of, but I want you to know the full story of the man that's standing in front of you. I want you to know my journey, because that informs you of what made me who I am. No doubt how the bouts with homelessness in your early life shaped you as well. So
absolutely.
I love this job, doctor. I love having conversations with people from different walks of life. And without the internet and without podcasting, you and I may have never gotten the chance to have these. And for people that look like me, or that look like you, or have our similar experiences, they would never be able to see that maybe we're not all so different at all.
Wow. I love it. I love it. Continuity is so important. Speaking of continuity, let's talk about before MIDI, right? I want to ask you a question. You remember we were doing analog many years ago? I got the joy of 2-inch tape and going to 2-track and edits with a razor blade. And I wasn't an editor, but it was such an amazing editing process. Then we went to ADATs and we went to complete digital. Do you remember the days of Performa? Do you remember the days of the pre-digital? What are your thoughts on that? Digital versus analog. Do you miss it?
Well, and I came up, so I'm 39, so I'm quite a bit younger. I came up as it was still, Pro Tools were obviously very big when I started kind of my recording career, 2008, 2009. I was a campfire strummer. I learned how to play guitar so I can impress some girls at a party, right? My dad played and my uncle played, so a guitar was always around me. And when I got one put in my hands, 8th grade, 13, 14 years old, I was already singing and I was already writing about things that I felt. And I found that songwriter side. And I say that there's something so special about the 6 strings of a guitar and the human voice and the human spirit. It's why rock and roll music became what it was for so long. And now we're getting into the age of AI. And I feel like expression is expression. And if we have tools that people can learn how to get the things that are in their heads, and that's all we're trying to do, is to get the sounds out of our brains and into the world somehow, some way, I am completely in support of that. And especially in the commercial side of music today, nobody's making any money. So what does it matter, right?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hundreds of millions of streams can bring no more than $1,500 in some instances. It's insane. Hundreds of millions of streams. And every month, I mean, it's about 200 to 300,000 uploads in just 1 or 2 platforms alone. So this is new music every day, from an 8-year-old kid to a 15-year-old kid to someone that's doing it as a hobby. So yeah, I mean, live performances gotta really make the difference now too. I mean, there's so much electronic music. They're going to be probably streaming at some point or doing some kind of 3D rendering. So it's important that musicians continue their craft, and we have venues to come out and perform so we can resonate soul to soul with the audience.
And that's so much of what we do. In the Midwest, we're very blessed that venues still pay quite a bit. Like when I go out and perform with my band, and I'm nobody. Even in South Dakota, I'm very far down the list, but we make anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 to come out and perform, which in a major market, well, the upper echelon of people are not getting that kind of a guarantee to perform. So very fortunate in where we live in the Midwest that we have so many venues that support that. Obviously, a lot of it is in the rock or country world that we're seeing, those kind of guarantees. But I'm working tirelessly to continue to bring, young people. Obviously, they want to listen to higher energy music, right? Whether it's pop or it's hip hop or it's, R&B, whatever that is, and trying to expose that kind of music to other music lovers. I feel like if you're performing with all of your heart, that it's going to resonate with people regardless of the genre.
Yeah, I agree. It's there's so many new systems. They're coming up with these. I know Timberland more recently has a full artist that he's creating. There's somebody that had a bidding war on an AI artist. I mean, this is just taking renderings or samples of other people's music, using a quantitative analysis to be able to break it down so it becomes the origin of the maker. I mean, what comes in is what comes out. I don't feel great about it, but I do acknowledge it. But as a competitive person and as a true artist, a creative, I guess I just carry my spiritual tools, put the spirit of songwriting into that box and see what that does bring. So I might be fooling around with it one day.
Right. And I have friends that have no musical talent with an instrument or with producing, but they write lyrics and they have these things in their head, and they've learned the art of talking to the AI, because it's not easy. It's not like you just plug in, make this song, and it spits out a perfect version. It takes adapting to the technology. It takes refinement along these things, and to see how they were able to express themselves, and just to see that joy that they had. It was the same joy that I had when I wrote a song, right? And that's why, as an artist who's not making any money in the business anyway, that I'm like, I think that's so great. Now, if I had some skin in the game, and I know Spotify just went through a massive change in their terms of service, and it's the reason why I kind of motivated to pull some of my stuff off of there, especially my podcast, because we put out so much content into here, and it would be very easy for them to just run that through and be like, well, we're just going to create a new character that's like Bubba Startz and to run with that. Besides the terms that are pretty much, you're signing a record deal without even knowing you're signing a record deal, just for the opportunity to have your stuff on the platform. I've been doing a lot to just try and educate people to, like, you don't have to believe me. Just go read your terms and educate yourself on what you're actually signing when you do these things. Because if you're going to work so hard to finally make it and then have this company come back and go, cool, well, we're going to take 75% of that. Here you go. I just don't think that it's right.
Yeah, I mean, and it's systematic. I mean, they go in and they make side deals, or they push the creatives or the artists or the copyright owner to the side. I mean, then they come back and say, this is what the standard is. It's going to have to change. If not, I think there's going to have to be a revolution in music. It's going to be live musicians, or people are going to go outside of the systems and create their own direct consumer or some kind of pathway. I think that's going to come too.
Well, and we've been seeing that for a long time. I follow the Creative Juice podcast, Indiepreneur, Rick Barker, which is Taylor Swift's former manager. And that's someone I got introduced in 2018 when I got out of prison. And I just started consuming their content and listening to them. And it was all of that, direct to fan. Like, look, you don't have to have 1 million streams to do very well for yourself. And in my area, like I said, very fortunate to get great guarantees for performance fees. But there's other ways to get your music out there, and to do that, you just have to educate yourself in that field. And it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot more work. But the days of, and I'm sure that you experience this. You experience young men and artists that were able to sign deals that got massive, advances, which they had to pay back through record sales and things, right? I mean, you've been in this business a long time. I don't have to tell you, but for our young listeners, those days of signing a record deal with massive advances, those are long gone. If you're not coming to the table with 1 million followers already and massive streaming numbers, record labels aren't interested in you. And honestly, you don't want that deal anyway.
Yeah, it's a bad bank deal. And then you got to think, as the administrator, they may be doing a mathematic. Their mathematics may not meet your metrics, like what you deserve and what you need to have. Self-publishing's good. hold on to all your rights. And there's so many non-traditional ways to advance your music career. You can DM other artists. You can offer people your beat packs, make sure they're covered and protected. And if you have several different songs, instead of copywriting each individual song, you can do it as one body of work. You can do 10 songs. You can make it an EP, or you can make it an LP. You can do it in 6s, 5s, and 4s, make them an EP, and then manage those the way you want to. It's important that you have an administrative system to measure the copyrights, to make sure that everything's covered, all your registrations are in place, and that's your first right, so you don't want it to be your last.
Now, is this something that you have a company that's kind of working on these with artists themselves, or is that, you just have your hands in so many things, I have to imagine.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell us some more if you have some, your own, not just the wisdom, which I appreciate you sharing for free, but where people can find out more about you and what you do for artists, and just go ahead and share whatever plugs you need to, Doctor.
Love to. So all things Glenn Toby, GLENN TOBY. That's on Instagram, that's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. DM me. If I can't help you, I'll guide you. I'm willing to share some jewels. We have access to some amazing independent ownership opportunities, which will give you the ability to stream, public relations, press releases, promotions, blogs, the whole gamut. You can get involved with it a la carte and manage it. Additionally, I always welcome giving free information from my past experiences. I have a TED Talk out, a TEDx, and it's about healing, and it talks a little about a mini story on my life. And you can go to my website for that, which is Dr. Glenn, GLENN, 2 N's, TOBY.com, and MrSweetyG.com, MrSweetyG is my music site. So, if you're a friend of Bubba, you're a friend of mine. This is where it is. Any information I can share, and do get a chance on Saturdays every single night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm on the Global Dance Party on Freshest FM, streaming and playing some of the best dance, R&B, soul, hip-hop, rock, anything you can name, remixes that are in the format of dance and high energy and good information I try to share with our listeners. It's a global station, and it's a global dance party. Come join us Saturday.
That sounds like a great time. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for sharing some of your story and some of your wisdom with us here on the show. And thank you for being part of the scene.
Thank you for having me, Bubba. Great show. Heard a lot about you guys, so I took the time. So let's talk, people. It's an open exchange. One thing about this podcast, many of us come through the door. This is an open community that I think continues. A lot to talk about.